We have even Philip, but he's sleeping inside a little cradle. Part 12. Part 12 is enclosed herewith. In the fourth paragraph, you will find the following statement. You must first have the knowledge of your power, second, the courage to dare, third, the faith to do. If you concentrate upon the thoughts given, if you give them your entire attention, you will find a word of meaning in each sentence and will attract to yourself other thoughts in harmony with them. And you will soon grasp the full significance of the vital knowledge upon which you are concentrating. Knowledge does not apply itself. We as individuals must make the application, and the application consists in fertilizing the thought with a living purpose. The time and thought which most persons waste in aimless effort would accomplish wonders if properly directed with some special object in view. In order to do this, it is necessary to center your mental force upon a specific thought and hold it there, to the exclusion of all other thoughts. If you have ever looked through the viewfinder of a camera, uffa, vieni amore. Femina, vieni. Chi è la pappa in cucina? You found that when the object was not in focus, the impression was indistinct and possibly blurred, but when the proper focus was obtained, the picture was clear and distinct. So. La pappa c'è in cucina, amore, si può vedere. This illustrates the power. I put you in focus. This illustrates the power of concentration. Unless you can concentrate upon the object which you have in view, you will have but a hazy, indifferent, vague, indistinct, and then blurred outline of your ideal, and the results will be in accordance with your mental picture. There is no purpose in life that cannot be best accomplished through a scientific understanding of the creative power of thought. This power to think is common to all. Man is because he thinks. Man's power to think is infinite, consequently his creative power is unlimited. Focchiolosa. Dai. We know that thought is building for us the thing we think of and actually bringing it nearer. Yet we find it difficult to banish fear, anxiety, or discouragement. Follow which, oh, Madonna, che bellina! Are powerful thought forces, and which continually send the things we desire further away, so that it does often one step forward and two steps backward. The only way to keep from going backward is to keep going forward. Eternal vigilance is the price of success. There are 3 steps. Amore, vieni qui. Vieni qui, cucciona. Mettiti qua in braccio. Vieni. Non ti stare a smungogliolare. Dai, fatti qui. Puffotole qui. Puzzona. Di qua. Dai, mettiti giù, amore. Sei proprio una puzzona. Dai. The only way, ok. Eternal vigilance is the price of success. There are 3 steps and each one is absolutely essential. You must first have the knowledge of your power, second, the courage to dare, third, the faith to do. With this as a basis, you can construct an ideal business, an ideal home, ideal friends, and an ideal environment. Puffola! Stiamo vedendo tutto. You are not restricted as to material cost. Thought is omnipotent and has the power to draw on the infinite bank of primary substance for all that it requires. Infinite resources are therefore at your command. Ottimo, maggior critico. But your ideal must be sharp, clear-cut, definite. To have one ideal today, another tomorrow, and a third the next week means to scatter your forces and accomplish nothing. Your result will be a meaningless and chaotic combination of wasted material. Unfortunately, this is the result which many are securing, and the cause is self-evident. If a sculptor started out with a piece of marble and a chisel and changed his ideal every 15 minutes, what result could he expect? And why should you expect any different result in molding the greatest and most plastic of all substances, the only real substance? The result of this indecision and negative thought is often found in the loss of material wealth. Supposed independence, which required many years of toil and effort, suddenly disappears. It is often found then that money and property are not independence at all. On the contrary, the only independence is found to be a practical working knowledge of the creative power of thought. Uffola, ma cosa fai? Ma sì, proprio una puzzona. Aspetta, amore, guarda. Falle qui le fusa. E farle sopra qui, mettiti sul cuscinetto. Vieni. Mia puzzolona, mettiti qua sopra. Dai. Visto com'è morbido quel cuscino? This practical working method cannot come to you until you learn that the only real power which you can have is the power to adjust yourself to divine and understanding and unchangeable principles. You cannot change the infinite, but you can come into an understanding of natural laws. The reward of this understanding is a conscious realization of your ability to adjust your thought faculties with the universal thought, which is omnipresent. Your ability to Your ability to cooperate with this omnipotence will indicate the degree of success with which you meet. The power of thought has many counterfeits, which are more or less fascinating, but the results are harmful instead of helpful. Of course, worry, fear, and all negative thoughts produce a crop after their kind. Those who harbor thoughts of this kind must inevitably reap what they have sown. Again, there are the phenomena seekers who gormandize on the so-called proofs and demonstrations obtained and materializing sciences. They throw open their mental doors and suck themselves into the most poisonous currents which can be found in the psychic world. They do not seem to understand that it is the ability to become negative, receptive and passive, and thus drain themselves of all their vital force, which enables them to bring about these vibratory thought forms. There are also the Hindu worshippers who see in the materializing phenomena which are performed by the so-called tablets a source of power, forgetting or never seeming to realize that as soon as the will is withdrawn, the forms wither and the vibratory forces of which they are composed vanish. Telepathy or thought transference has received considerable attention, but as it requires a negative mental state on the part of the receiver, the practice is harmful. A thought may be sent with the intention of hearing or seeing, but it will bring the penalty attached to the inversion of the principle involved. Wait a second, all of you. Puffi, the camera. Fai la brava. C'è la pappa in cucina, she want to eat. But there is yet her food in the kitchen, just she doesn't know. Vai a vedere, amore, c'è la pappina in cucina, vai a controllare. Ti vai a vedere, c'è già la pappa. Puffa, look at you. Put down. Puffy, Puffy, don't do that. Puffola, aspetta. Ok. Allora. In many instances, hypnotism is positively dangerous to the subject, as well as the operator. No one familiar with the laws governing the mental world will think of attempting to dominate the will of another, by so doing he will gradually but surely divert himself of his own power. All of these perversions have their temporary satisfaction and for some a keen fascination, but there is an infinitely bella greater fascination in a true understanding of the world of power within, a power which increases with use. She's kissing my nose. Is permanent instead of fleeing, which not only is potent as a remedial agency to bring about the remedy for past error or result of wrong thinking, but is a prophylactic agency protecting us from all manner of from danger. And finally, is an actual creative force with which we can build new conditions and new environment. But this kid, she's deviating my attention because she's too beautiful, she's too pretty, too flawless. Basta. Allora, the law is that thought will create with its object and bring forth in the material world the correspondence of the thing thought or produced in the mental world. We then discern the absolute necessity of seeing that every thought has the inherent germ of truth, in order that the law of growth will bring into manifestation good, for good alone can confer any permanent power. The principle which gives the thought the dynamic power wait a second. The principle which gives the thought the dynamic power to correlate with its object. Sorry, but I got to show to Puffy that there is her food in the kitchen. Look now how she will follow me. There is yet, but she doesn't know, so she keeps just asking to me. Andiamo, vieni a vedere. Here I am. Woo. Okay. The principle, which gives the thought the dynamic power to correlate with its object and therefore to master every adverse human experience, is the law of attraction, which is another name for love. This is an eternal and fundamental principle inherent in all things, in every system of philosophy, in every religion, and in every science. There is no getting away from the law of love. It is the feeling that imparts vitality to thought. Feeling is desire, and desire is love. Thought impregnated with love becomes invincible. We find this truth emphasized wherever the power of thought is understood. The universal mind is not only intelligence, but it is substance, and this substance is the attractive force which brings electrons together by the law of attraction, so that they form atoms. The atoms, in turn, are brought together by the same law and form molecules. Molecules take objective forms. Molecules take objective forms, and so we find that the law of love is the creative force behind every manifestation, not only of atoms, but of words, of the universe, of everything of which the imagination can form any conception. It is the operation of this marvelous law of attraction which has caused men in all ages and all times to believe that there must be some personal being who responded to their petitions and desires, and manipulated events in order to comply with their requirements. It is the combination of thought and love which forms the irresistible force called the law of attraction. All natural laws are irresistible. The law of gravitation, or electricity, or any other law operates with mathematical exactitude. There is no variation, it is only the channel of distribution which may be imperfect. If a bridge falls, we do not attribute the collapse to any variation of the law of gravitation. If a light fails us, we now conclude that the laws governing electricity cannot be depended upon, and if the law of attraction seems to be imperfectly demonstrated by an inexperienced or uninformed person, we are not to conclude that the greatest and most infallible law upon which the entire system of creation depends has been suspended. We should rather conclude that a little more understanding of the law is required, for the same reason that a correct solution of a difficult problem in mathematics is not always readily and easily obtained. Things are created in the mental or spiritual world before they appear in the outward act or event. By the simple process of governing our thought forces today, we help create the events which will come into our lives in the future, perhaps even tomorrow. Educated desire is the most potent means of bringing into action the law of attraction. Man is so constituted that he must first create the tools or implements by which he gains the power to think. The mind cannot comprehend an entirely new idea until a corresponding vibratory brain cell has been prepared to receive it. This explains why it is so difficult for us to receive or appreciate an entirely new idea. We have no brain cell capable of receiving it. We are therefore incredulous. We do not believe it. If, therefore, you have not been familiar with the omnipotence of the law of attraction and the scientific method by which it can be put into operation, or if you have not been familiar with the unlimited possibilities which it opens to those who are enabled to take advantage of the resources it offers, begin now and create the necessary brain cells which will enable you to comprehend the unlimited powers which may be yours by cooperating with natural law. This is done by concentration or attention. The intention governs the attention. Power comes through repose. It is by concentration that deep thoughts, wise speech, and all forces of high potentiality are accomplished. It is in the silence that you get into touch with the omnipotent power of the subconscious mind, from which all power is evolved. He who desires wisdom, power, or permanent success of any kind will find it only within. It is an unfoldment. The unthinking may conclude that the silence is very simple and easily attained, but it should be remembered that only in absolute silence may one come into contact with divinity itself, may learn of the unchangeable law, and open for himself the channels by which persistent practice and concentration lead to perfection. This week, I love when he says this. This week, go to the same room, take the same chair, the same position as previously. Be sure to relax, let go, both mentally and physically. Always do this. Never try to do any mental work under pressure. See that there are no tense muscles or nerves, that you are entirely comfortable. Now realize your unity with omnipotence. Get into touch with this power. Come into a deep and vital understanding, appreciation, and realization of the fact that your ability to think is your ability to act upon the universal mind and bring into manifestation. Realize that it will meet any and every requirement. That you have, that you have exactly the same potential ability which any individual ever did have, or ever will have, because each is but an expression or manifestation of the one. All are parts of the whole. There is no difference in kind or quality, the only difference being one of degree. Thought cannot conceive of anything that may not be brought to expression. He who first uttered it may be only the suggester, but the doer will appear. Wilson. Part 13. Physical science is responsible for the marvelous age of invention in which we are now living, but spiritual science is now setting out on a career whose possibilities no one can foretell. Spiritual science has previously been the football of the uneducated, the superstitious, the mystical, but men are now interested in definite methods and demonstrated facts only. We have come to know that thinking is a spiritual process. The vision and imagination preceded action and event. That the day of the dreamer has come. Oh, I love this. They are the architect. The following lines by Herbert Kaufman are interesting in this connection. They are the architects of greatness. Their vision lies within their souls. They peer beyond the veils and mist of doubt and pierce the walls of unborn time. The belted wheel, the trail of steel, the churning screw are shuttless in the loom on which they wave their magic tapestries. Makers of empire, they have fought for bigger things than crowns and higher seats than thrones. Your homes are set upon the land a dreamer found. Oh, much I love this. The picture on its walls are visions from a dreamer's soul. They are the choose few, the blazers of the way. Walls crumbles and empires fall. The tidal wave sweeps from the sea and tears a fortress from its rocks. The rotting nation drop off from time's bow, and all things the dreamers make live on. Oh, much is beautiful. Wait till I make a sentence about this. Okay. Part 13, um, which follows, tells why the dreams of the dreamer come true. It explains, anyway, it's for this that I love Disney. Because all Disney is based about realizing your dreams, and Walt Disney himself was a funny comedian, and nothing. So it's based on remain cheerfulness and your true self is even when you grow up, still remain your inner child. Because basically, remaining your inner child is it means just remaining your true self, or when you're spontaneous, you live without burdens. You know, you're just playful. That is the only meaning of remaining your inner child. Because people grow up, then they have maybe responsibilities, and then they become more serious. So just remain your inner self. So, part 13, which follows, tells why the dreams of the dreamer come true. It explains the law of causation by which dreamers, inventors, authors, financiers bring about the realization of their desires. It explains the law by which the thing pictured upon our mind eventually becomes our own. It has been the tendency and, as might be proved, a necessity for science to seek the explanation campufi of everyday facts by a generalization of those others which are less frequent and form the exception. Thus does the eruption of the volcano manifest the heat, which is continually at work in the interior of the earth, and to which the latter owes much of her configuration. Thus does the lightning reveal a subtle power constantly, busy to produce changes in the inorganic world. And, as a dead language is now seldom heard, where once ruling among the nations, so does a giant tooth in Siberia, or a fossil in the depth of the earth, not only be a record of the evolution of past ages, but thereby explains to us the origin of the hills and valleys which we inhabit today. In this way, a generalization of facts, which are rare, strange, or form the exception, has been the magnetic needle guiding to all the discoveries of inductive science. This method is founded upon reason and experience, and thereby destroyed superstition, precedent, and conventionality. It is almost 300 years since Lord Bacon recommended this method of study, to which the civilized nations owed the greater part of their prosperity and the more valuable part of their knowledge, purging the mind from narrow prejudices denominated theories more effectually than by the keenest irony, calling the attention of men from heaven to earth more successfully by surprising experiments than by the most forcible demonstration of their ignorance. Educating the inventive faculties more powerfully by the near prospect of useful discoveries thrown upon to all than by talk of bringing to light the innate laws of our mind. The method of Bacon assays the spirit and aim of the great philosophers of Greece and carried them into effect by the new means of observation which another age offered, thus gradually revealing a wondrous field of knowledge in the infinite space of astronomy. In the microscopic egg of embryology and the dim age of geology, disclosing an order of the pulse which the logic of Aristotle could never have unveiled, and analyzing into formerly unknown elements the material combinations which no dialectic of the scholastic could force apart. It has lengthened life, it has mitigated pain, it has extinguished diseases, it has increased the fertility of the soil, it has given new securities to the mariner, It has spanned great rivers with bridges of form unknown to our fathers. It has guided the thunderbolt from heaven to earth. It has lighted up night with the splendor of day. It has extended the range of human vision. It has multiplied the power of the human muscles. It has accelerated motion. It has annihilated distance. It has facilitated intercourse correspondence, all friendly offices, all dispatch of business. It has enabled men to descend into the depths of the sea, to soar into the air, to penetrate securely into the noxious recesses of the earth. This, then, is the true nature and scope of induction. But the greater the success which men have achieved in the inductive science, the more does the whole tenor of their teachings and example impress us with the necessity of observing carefully, patiently, accurately, with all the instruments and resources at our command, the individual facts before venturing upon a statement of general laws. To ascertain the bearing of the spark drawn from the electric machine under every variety of circumstances, that we thus may be emboldened with Franklin to address, in the form of a kite, the question to the cloud about the nature of the lightning, to assure ourselves of the manner in which bodies fall with the exactness of a Galileo, that with Newton we may dare to ask the moon about the force that fastens it to earth. In short, by the value we set upon truth, by our hope in a steady and universal progress, not to permit a tyrannical prejudice to neglect or mutilate unwelcome facts, but to rear the superstructure of science upon the broad and unchangeable basis of full attention paid to the most isolated as well as the most frequent phenomena. An ever-increasing material may be collected by observation, but the accumulated facts are of very different value for the explanation of nature. And as we esteem most highly those useful qualities of man which are of the rarest occurrence, so does natural philosophy sift the facts and attach a preeminent importance to that striking class which cannot be accounted for by the usual and daily observation of life. If then we find that certain persons seem to possess unusual power, what are we to conclude? First, we may say, it is not so, which is implied is simply an acknowledgement of our lack of information, because every honest investigator admits that there are many strange and previously unaccountable phenomena constantly taking place. Those, however, who become acquainted with the creative power of thought will no longer consider them unaccountable. Second, we may say that they are the result of supernatural interference, but a scientific understanding of natural laws will convince us that there is nothing supernatural. Every phenomenon is the result of an accurate, definite cause, and the cause is an immutable law or principle, which operates with invariable precision, whether the law is put into operation consciously or unconsciously. Third, we may say that we are on forbidden ground, that there are some things which we should not know. This objection was used against every advance in human knowledge. Every individual who ever advanced a new idea, whether a Columbus, a Darwin, Galileo, a Fulton, or an Emerson, was subjected to ridicule or persecution, so that this objection should receive no serious consideration, but on the contrary, we should carefully consider every fact which is brought to our attention. By doing this, we will more readily ascertain the law upon which it is based. It will be found that the creative power of thought will explain every possible condition or experience, whether physical, mental, or spiritual. Thought will bring about conditions in correspondence with the predominant mental attitude. Therefore, if we fear disaster, as fear is a powerful form of thought, disaster will be the certain result of our thinking. It is this form of thought which frequently consequently sweeps away the result of many years of toil and effort. If we think of some form of material wealth, we may secure it. By concentrated thought, the required conditions will be brought about and the proper effort put forth, which will result in bringing about the circumstances necessary to realize our desires. But we often find that when we secure the things we thought we wanted, they do not have the effect we expected. That is, the satisfaction is only temporary, or possibly is the reverse of what we expected. What then is the proper method or procedure? What are we to think in order to secure what we really desire? What you and I desire, what we all desire, what everyone is seeking, is happiness and harmony. If we can be truly happy, we shall have everything the world can give. If we are happy ourselves, we can make others happy. But we cannot be happy unless we have health, strength, congenial friends, pleasant environments, sufficient supply, not only to take of our necessities, but to provide for those comforts and luxuries to which we are entitled. The old orthodox way of thinking was to be a worm, to be satisfied with our portion, whatever it is. But the modern idea is to know that we are entitled to the best of everything, that the Father and I are one, and that the Father is universal mind, the Creator, the original substance from which all things proceed. Now, admitting that this is all true in theory, and it has been taught for 2000 years, and is the essence of every system of philosophy or religion, how are we to make it practical in our lives? How are we to get the actual, tangible results here and now? In the first place, we must put our knowledge into practice. Nothing can be accomplished in any other way. The athlete might read books and lessons on physical training all his life, but unless he begins to give out strength by actual work, he will never receive any strength. He will eventually get exactly what he gives, but he will have to give it first. It is exactly the same with us. We will get exactly what we give, but we shall have to give it first. He will then return to us manifold, and the giving is simply a mental process. Because thoughts are causes and conditions are effect. Therefore, in giving thoughts of courage, inspiration, health, or help of any kind, we are setting causes in motion which will bring about their effect. Thought is a spiritual activity and is therefore creative, but make no mistake, thought will create nothing unless it is consciously, systematically and constructively directed. And arraying is the difference between idle thinking, which is simply a dissipation of effort, and constructive thinking, which means practically unlimited achievement. We have found that everything we get comes to us by the law of attraction. A happy thought cannot exist in an unhappy consciousness. Therefore, the consciousness must change, and as the consciousness changes, all conditions necessary to meet the changed consciousness must gradually change in order to meet the requirements of the new situation. In creating a mental image or an ideal, we are projecting a thought into the universal substance from which all things are created. This universal substance is omnipresent, omnipotent, and omniscient. Are we to inform the omniscient as to the proper channel to be used to materialize our demand? Can the infinite advise the infinite? This is the cause of failure, of every failure. We recognize the omnipresence of the universal substance, but we fail to appreciate the fact that this substance is not only omnipresent, but is omnipotent and omniscient, and consequently will set causes in motion concerning which we may be entirely ignorant. We can best conserve our interest by recognizing the infinite power and infinite wisdom of the universal mind, and in this way become a channel whereby the infinite can bring about the realization of our desire. This means that recognition brings realization. Therefore, for your exercise this week, make use of the principle. Recognize the fact that you are a part of the whole, and that a part must be the same in kind and quality as the whole. The only difference that can possibly buy is in degree. When these tremendous facts begins to permeate your consciousness, when you really come into realization of the fact that you, not your body, but the ego, the I, the spirit which thinks in an integral part of the great whole, that it is the same in substance, in quality, in kind, that the Creator could create nothing different from Himself, you will also be able to say, the Father and I are one, and you will come into an understanding of the beauty, the grandeur, the transcendental opportunities which have been placed at your disposal. Increase in me that wisdom which discovers my truest interest, strengthen my resolution to perform that which wisdom dictates frankly. Part 14, and now I rest a second, drinking my coffee. All right. Part 14. Oh, sorry. You have found from your study thus far that thought is a spiritual activity and is therefore endowed with creative power. This does not mean that some thought is creative but that all thought is creative. The same principle can be brought into operation in a negative way through the process of denial. The conscious and subconscious are but two phases of action in connection with one mind. The relation of the subconscious to the conscious is quite analogous to that existing between a weather vane and the atmosphere. Just as the least pressure of the atmosphere causes an action on the part of the weather vane, so does the least thought entertained by the conscious mind produce within your subconscious mind action in exact proportion to the depth of feeling, characterizing the thought and the intensity with which the thought is indulged. It follows that if you deny unsatisfactory conditions, you are withdrawing the creative power of your thought from these conditions. You are cutting them away at the root. You are sapping their vitality. Remember that the law of growth necessarily governs every manifestation in the objective, so that a denial of unsatisfactory conditions will not bring about instant change. A plant will remain visible for some time after its roots have been cut, but it will gradually fade away and eventually disappear, so the withdrawal of your thought from the contemplation of unsatisfactory conditions will gradually but surely terminate these conditions. You will see that this is an exactly opposite course from the one which we will naturally be inclined to adopt. It will therefore have an exactly opposite effect to the one usually secured. Most persons concentrate intently upon unsatisfactory conditions, thereby giving the conditions that measure of energy and vitality which is necessary in order to supply a vigorous growth. The universal energy, in which all motion, light, heat, and color have their origin, does not partake of the limitation of the many effects of which it is the cause, but it is supreme over them all. This universal substance is the source of all power, wisdom, and intelligence. But if we should wait a second, I want to put myself down. Hope that you hear me. Allora, the universal energy in which all motion, light, heat, and color have their origin does not partake of the limitation of the many effects of which it is the cause, but it is supreme over them all. This universal substance is the source of all power, wisdom, and intelligence. To recognize this intelligence is to acquaint yourself with the knowing quality of mind, and through it to move upon the universal substance and bring it into harmonious relations in your affairs. This is something that the most learned physical science teacher has not attempted, a field of discovery upon which he has not yet launched. In fact, but few of the materialistic schools have ever caught the first ray of this light. It does not seem to have dawned upon them that wisdom is just as much present everywhere as are force and substance. Some will say, if these principles are true, why are we not demonstrating them? As the fundamental principle is obviously correct, Why do we not get proper results? We do. We get results in exact accordance with our understanding of the law and our ability to make the proper application. We secured no results from the laws governing electricity until someone formulated the law and showed us how to apply it. This puts us in an entirely new relation to our environment, opening up possibilities previously undreamed of, and this by an orderly sequence of law which is naturally involved in our new mental attitude. Mind is creative, and the principle upon which this law is based is sound and legitimate, and is inherent in the nature of things. But this creative power does not originate in the individual, but in the universal, which is the source and foundation of all energy and substance. The individual is simply the channel for the distribution of this energy. The individual is the means by which the universal produces the various combinations which result in the formation of phenomena. We know the scientists have resolved matter into an immense number of molecules. These molecules have been resolved into atoms and the atoms into electrons. The discovery of electrons in vacuum glass tubes containing fused terminals of hard metal indicates conclusively that these electrons fill a space, all space, that they exist everywhere, that they are omnipresent. They fill all material bodies and occupy the wall of what we call empty space. This, then, is the universal substance from which all things proceed. Electrons will forever remain electrons unless directed where to go to be assembled into atoms and molecules, and this director is mind. A number of electrons revolving around the center of force constitutes an atom. Atoms unite in absolutely regular mathematical ratios and form molecules, and these unite with each other to form a multitude of compounds which unite to build the universe. The lightest known atom is hydrogen, and this is 1,700 times heavier than an electron. An atom of mercury is 300,000 times heavier than an electron. Electrons are pure negative electricity, and as they have the same potential velocity as all other cosmic energy, such as heat, light, electricity, and thought, neither time nor space require consideration. The manner in which the velocity of light was ascertained is interesting. The velocity of light was obtained by the Danish astronomer Roemer in 1676 by observing the eclipses of Jupiter's moons. When the Earth was nearest to Jupiter, the eclipse appeared about 8½ minutes too soon for the calculations, and when the Earth was most remote from Jupiter, they were about 8½ minutes too late. Roemer concluded very soon to be that he required 17 minutes for light from the planet to traverse the diameter of the Earth's orbit, which measured the difference of the distances of the Earth from Jupiter. This calculation has since been verified and proves that light travels about 186,000 miles a second. Electrons manifest in the body as shells and possess mind and intelligence sufficient for them to perform their functions in the human physical anatomy. Every part of the body is composed of cells, some of which operate independently, others in communities. Some are busy building tissue, while others are engaged in forming the various secretions necessary for the body. Some act as carriers of materials, others are the surgeons whose work it is to repair damage, others are scavengers carrying off waste, Others are constantly ready to repel invaders or other undesirable intruders of the germ family. All these shells are moving for a common purpose, and each one is not only a living organism, but has sufficient intelligence to enable it to perform its necessary duties. It is also endowed with sufficient intelligence to conserve the energies and perpetuate its own life. It must therefore secure sufficient nourishment, and it has been found that it exercises choice in the selection of such nourishment. And we finish later because I'm a little bit tired and I will rest. Bye bye.